He did it again! What a magma fisting prick. I mean, POV, you're just a humble robot trying to enjoy a destructive stroll across the Holy Land, and then in comes Mr. Magma ready to blow your face off and probably violently scoop out your various robotic insides, thus ruining your day.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
But let's look a bit deeper here, because I think this actually reveals something very fascinating about Sakazuki. When Sakazuki called Kuma a mindless puppet, it seemed as though he was talking to himself. Deep. I see what's happening here. It's sort of like listening to people complain online. They're projecting. They're unsatisfied with their own lives, and to cope, they need to label other people as the ones with their problems. Instead of solving your own problems, you pretend that other people have those same problems, and you laugh at them for having the same problems that you yourself have. That's what's happening here. Sakazuki says, Kuma, mate, you've lost your mind, you've lost your will, you've lost your everything. Pathetic. And he's ever so angry at Kuma, but is he really? Nah, the reality is, he's mad at himself. And you know what? Maybe there's even a bit of jealousy mixed in here. Because Kuma, yeah, he's lost everything, and yet he is still clearly acting on his own. Right now, is Kuma more free than Sakazuki? I would argue yes. Because even as a mindless robot, he's still doing whatever the crap he wants. Whilst the Fleet Admiral of the most powerful military organization in the world is being berated about Lobster. At the very least, this is hypocrisy, but the puppet theme continues. Kizaru right now is also a bit of a puppet, because even if we do believe what he's saying about the, oh no, I don't want to do this, guys, please, all of which he says with a smile, even if we believe that, he really is demonstrating Sakazuki's Kuma accusations. He has no will, mind, or agency. He just does what he's told. In fact, this whole chapter is really great at emphasizing why Garp decided not to become an admiral, and also why Kuzan may have left the position. Akainu appeared more human than usual in this chapter. Maybe him being ordered by the Celestial Dragons made him less evil. So I don't think it's that. But this is a feeling I've been having with Sakazuki for a while now. Post-time skip, he just seems less evil. And I don't know, is evil the right word? It might be the wrong word. Maybe antagonistic? And that's because he hasn't done anything. All of the things that made the fanbase hate him were done pre-time skip. That's when he murdered that poor Marine who just wanted to go home to his family. That's when he ordered the Ohara genocide. And it's when he ordered a fresh A-shaped cinnamon donut. Nom nom. I do agree with him there though. No donut is more superior than the fresh cinnamon. But Oda is really amping up the evil of the world nobles, which I would describe as genuine evil, because their evil serves no purpose but to be evil. Again, evil, it's a difficult word, because it's meant to signify something immoral. And yes, genocide is immoral, but actually, you know what, there is no but. Sakazuki did it from his perspective for moral reasons, but it's still pretty damn up there on the scale of evil. And I'm not defending him, it was an evil act, but even then, Sakazuki, he looks like a sympathetic protagonist when he's standing next to the world nobles, which to, verbally fillet the author of One Piece a bit more, is a monumental accomplishment to have this fleshed out spectrum of antagonism. I personally see Sakazuki as more of an MCU Thanos style villain, and I imagine that Infinity War is definitely one of his favorite films because he took Thanos' words to heart and always goes for the head. A plot point I can't quite figure out is that the Kuma scene said 1 day ago, which I take to mean 1 day before the current scene on Egghead. So where did he teleport to? Yeah, that's another thing that went over my head when initially reading the chapter, but I think it makes sense. We call what Kuma does teleportation, but it's not that. It's just moving. It's moving like really fast. But fast moving still means travel time. Luffy, for example, was sent flying for 3 days before he ended up at Amazon Lily. So this might be a matter of logistics for Oda. For Kuma to get to Egghead Island at a pivotal moment, aka now, then he would have needed to start moving a while ago. I would love it if St. Charlos pushes Sakazuki too far until he snaps. Sakazuki goes to punch Charlos, and his punch is blocked by Figaland in the same manner Shanks blocked his punch in Marineford. If Sakazuki ever did do a full-scale marine revolution, then I would love to see this. And again, tensions, they're building. Pressure is mounting on Sakazuki's broad but breakable shoulders. He is probably considered to be the worst fleet admiral in modern history for allowing all of this to happen, and very much not allowing the world nobles to eat lobster that one time, which is much more egregious apparently. How many people do you think would follow him? him, because I think it's a lot. As much as the Marines may obey the orders of the World Nobles, it's hard to say that many, if any, Marines actually like the World Nobles or approve of their actions. So I could see a lot of people flipping from both sides of the Marine faction. Another question I would ask is, where is Commander-in-Chief Kong? We know that his office is located on Marijois, so either he's too old to fight these days, or he sees the situation that Sakazuki is in and decides that no, I don't want to ruin my political legacy by involving myself in that there shitstorm. You're on your own, Sakazuki. To complete the Sabati parallel, Kuma will launch everyone to Elbaf. You know, that's not impossible. Everyone hops aboard the Thousand Sunny and Kuma does a bit of a schwip, and it would remove the need for a complicated plan involving robots and cola-powered ships, a plan which is already in pretty big trouble, but it would also mean that there is no possible chance that the Marines could catch them, because they can't intercept them getting to Elbaf, and they're very unlikely to invade Elbaf like they did Egghead. So the ancient machine was solar-powered, eh? You know, that's actually a really good way to put it. They were powered by the sun god, which is also very environmentally conscious. It's also notable that the Iron Giant's eyes are glowing in the same sort of way that Zunesh's eyes started glowing when he was talking about Joy Boy returning on Wano. So there's a bit of an interesting effect happening here, which doesn't seem to be exclusive to biological or mechanical creatures, unless the giant robot is secretly a living being, perhaps another lost Nakama of Joy Boy, which I guess we would find out pretty quickly. In the next chapter, Luffy might say something like, what's that voice? And then the Iron Giant appears. I also saw someone suggest that the robot is waking up because of something that Kuma did on Marijois, or that it's something like that working in concert with the Gear 5th heartbeat, which would explain why the robot didn't wake up versus Rob Lucci. Or would it? I don't know. Because now the timeline is a bit sketchy on that, because theoretically they both happened around the same time, which was now yesterday. And either way, I don't know how much I buy into that idea. However, it's worth considering just because Kuma and the Iron Giant, they have their story so aligned so far. But there's also an even crazier idea that the robot is waking up because the soul of one Bartholomew Kuma entered it. I think that's definitely going a bit far. However, there is some definite soul business at play in Egghead. I said this in the chapter review, but Vegapunk was trying to observe the human soul through Kuma. So maybe the robot wakes up and Vegapunk goes, hang on, wait a minute. There's something not quite right here, because I could have sworn that the Iron Giant weighed 21 grams less. So maybe the Iron Giant has a soul. Maybe it's soul powered, and if it is, maybe Brook can pilot it. I have a feeling the big robot we saw at the end of the chapter isn't going to help the Straw Hats, and someone will have to fight it. Brackets, hopefully General Frankie. I guess sort of like Kuma himself right now, the motivations for the Iron Giant, they're a bit vague. It's definitely not something we should currently take for granted as a definite ally. Perhaps more like a large element of chaos that attacks indiscriminately, if it attacks at all. But look, Luffy's busy with Kizaru, Zara's busy taking the cat out, so who's left to fight an undefeatable ancient robot? Well, only the most super of Straw Hats, of course. Look, as always, I don't want to get my hopes up because I've been disappointed too many times before, but maybe we might want someone to pilot the giant mech. I previously suggested that Luffy might do something like that, weird Gear 5th shenaniganry. It would no doubt be fun, and we like fun. But also, maybe we could take the robot with us, and it could become a new, or I guess old new Battle Frankie. Frankie, honestly, he's one of my least favorite Straw Hats, but mate, do I want him to have something. Just give him something. And there's so many different ways that you could do it, especially in this arc. Like maybe because the Iron Giant is all ancient and everything, it was built with similar mechanisms to Pluton, plans which Frankie has seen, and he could recognize a bit about how it works. Not even Vegapunk has seen the plans for Pluton. So this may be the one area where Frankie has a technological superiority on Vegapunk, but it'll probably amount to nothing. Normal physics fact. In our world, Kizaru wouldn't need to step away to attack faster because one can't go faster than the speed of light. It's always the same speed. That's a very fun physics fact there. So I guess in this case, the question is, does Kizaru even understand his own powers? I guess he's not wrong. Acceleration and/or speed does result in power. There's a difference in translation there, but it all results in the same general idea, as in he can travel at light speed. So what's the difference between a close-up light speed kick and a light speed kick that starts a little bit further away? Because they're both happening at the same speed. So Kizaru's actions here of like going backwards, it seems a bit superfluous. As a general note, Kizaru is and always has been a bit of a fraud, as he definitely cannot travel at the speed of light as we know it. If he did, then every impact he had would risk apocalyptic destruction of the planet. So I guess this maneuver here is Kizaru finally admitting that no, he cannot travel at light speed, because he still needs that distance to accelerate. But then again, look, I am not a science. If you are and you can explain this better than me, which is not a high bar, far? If you can do that, then you know where the comments are. The Grand Fleet are on their way to Egghead. They all have Luffy's Vivia card, and since he basically died on Wano, they should all be able to find their way there to check on him. This is a bit of a left field suggestion, but I guess that is a lingering point. Luffy, in theory, did die on Wano, ? Or at the very least, he was close enough that his Vivia card would have been burning out pretty damn noticeably. So yeah, I could see them all getting worried and contacting one another, but I still don't think it's quite their time. I wouldn't be complaining if they did rock up, and yeah, it would make sense. But with the Grand Fleet, I really do think that it has to be Luffy who calls them rather than the card. Because back on Dressrosa, what Luffy said was, "If I ever think we're in trouble, I'll shout for your help. Then you can come save us." And something we often neglect is that Luffy also said that the opposite was true. If you're in trouble, call for us and we'll come help you. I won't forget about how we fought Mingo together. So whatever happens with the Grand Fleet, it doesn't necessarily need to be them going to save Luffy. Instead, they could be elsewhere causing some wild incident and then pleading with Luffy to save them. Can't Luffy just move the ship himself at this point? He can. He probably almost certainly can. He could become a giant and then I guess just toss the Thousand Sunny once the Frontier Dome is down. The problem is Luffy also needs to be on the ship when it's moving, which would not be an issue if he was Kizaru, but Luffy is an entirely different kind of monkey. The idea with the Vega Force 1 was that Lilith was going to pilot it up to a distance of 1 kilometer away from the island, because it was stated that it can only fly that far, and if it goes any further, it loses power. From there, or I guess just before there, Lilith would hop onto the Thousand Sunny, and we would coup de burst our way to victory. Although I'm not sure why we can't just do that right now with the Thousand Sunny. Maybe the coup de burst, it just doesn't quite get them far enough. And I don't think anyone's really done the maths on that. As it is, Stella is just taking Frankie's word on what the Thousand Sunny can do. Luffy just wanted a light snack. What is wrong with that? Yeah, see what you did there? Very clever. The thing about Tom and Jerry is that Jerry usually wins, and Kizaru is looking like he's Tom at the moment. That is very true. If we go by the last 2 pages, Kizaru is very much in the classic Jerry position, having been caught in the hands of Tom before he pulls out some sort of wacky mouse shenaniganry to get the better of Tom. But also Kaido was in the Jerry position on Wano, and you know what he got? He got a lava bath. So I think that Oda has subverted the classic cartoon roles a bit. I liked how Luffy was thrown out of the barrier, then complained how he had to come back into it. So I forgot to talk about this in the chapter review. I think I was just too hyped seeing that giant gif with Luffy, but Kizaru kicked Luffy out of the Frontier Dome, and then Luffy made his way back in, which means that he got hit twice. With the Frontier Dome, crossing it is no problem. It's not a solid structure, but crossing it activates all sorts of lasers that do bad damage things to you, like we saw happen with Kaku. Also a thing, Bonnie got kicked into the Frontier Dome as well, which was kind of funny because Kizaru says, "Bonnie, please don't make me hurt anyone else." And before she even has a chance to say or do anything, he kicks her into the dome, which isn't looking too great for Bonnie. Sure, Luffy did cross it twice and Kaku was okay after suffering the consequences of his curiosity, but Bonnie isn't quite the physical tank that they are. But also she has powers that we aren't anywhere near close to fully understanding. Like say she hits the dome, takes a ton of damage, but then either reverts her body to a younger form pre-damage or an older form post-damage, or maybe even morphs into an alternate future version. What happens there? Does the damage she took disappear? And does it reappear when she goes back to her true body? And does she even have to go back to her true body? I guess so, because Bonnie did say in chapter 1072 that her powers don't work on living things indefinitely, and she quite notably is a living thing, I think. Another situation though, what happens if she hits the Frontier Dome with an alternate body? Say she activates the alternate reality bulky form, then tanks the damage in that body and reverts back to normal. Is the damage still there? Because technically it was an alternate form that had incurred it. I don't have the answers to these questions. And I think it's a credit to Oda that he's created an ability with so many logical and fun outs. And look, if the timing lines up, another idea is that Bonnie might have been saved by Kuma. If Luffy can cross the barrier, then Kuma absolutely can. Yes, he'll get hit, but he's been hit a lot. It doesn't really matter to him. So the idea is that the explosion was caused by Kuma saving Bonnie. But either way, I swear that Kizaru is enjoying this. What he says and what he's doing are completely disjointed. It's like a shonen parody. He's saying all of the typical heartfelt lines, like, "Oh, don't make me do this. It pains me to be paining you." But he's also so obviously enjoying what he's doing. And something I also really like is that Kizaru is using the Frontier Dome as a weapon. It's pretty brilliant strategically, turning their greatest defense into a weapon against them. Because the only one who cannot be affected by the dome is Kizaru himself. Once again, they called Bonnie a little girl. They have been really hammering that in. So Kizaru does say something along the lines of, "You've gotten quite a bit taller, Bonnie. kids these days sure do grow fast. And I feel like you could take this either way. Obviously, because we're hyper-focused on Bonnie, we are going to read a lot into small statements like these. However, it is the latest in a mounting pile of evidence that potentially points to the idea that Jewelry Bonnie is actually a child. And I do have a whole video outlining the child Bonnie theory, which you should absolutely watch, and if you've already seen it, then well, just go watch it again.